Welcome back to Investing with Confidence, talking about the do's, the don'ts of the financial markets, and sponsored by Online Trading Academy. Actually, Online Trading Academy on their 25th year, teaching people just like you how to trade and invest in the markets, whether you're brand new to the markets or maybe you just have 401ks and IRAs and looking to do something a little bit more or a little bit different. We have investing classes right here locally in Denver, Colorado, but also Bloomington, Minnesota. For 2 tickets for those investing class, it's a physical class locally. It's also hands-on. Call 888-682-6466. In these classes, you'll learn more about how the markets work and learn more about how to protect your accounts. We're seeing down markets right now. Learn the skills and techniques to keep what you've really earned over the last, 10, 15 years here of these soaring markets. You can also text the word INVEST to the number 484848. When you do that, you're going to receive 2 tickets plus a financial quick start kit, which includes some free stock picks. And Al, I kind of let the cat out of the bag. They're talking about 401ks and IRAs. And here at Online Trading Academy, we classify your cash or your capital, any monies that you have, as 2 different buckets. Correct. You have an income bucket and you have a wealth bucket. So obviously your income bucket would be, cash flow from trading or maybe from your job or any other things that you're doing, on the side. That would be more your income bucket. Mm-hmm. You also have your wealth bucket, which would be your retirement accounts, your 401ks, your IRAs, 403bs, TSPs. And we're seeing a lot of people come to the academy that have these accounts. And so a lot of people, doing really well in these accounts, have good balances. I mean, they're very successful people, but they're still worried because we're seeing some volatility, as you talked about earlier, downward moves in the markets, and they want to protect what they have. So let's talk about that wealth bucket, different techniques and concepts to learn how to protect those, but also different strategies to have the opportunity to continue to build those even during retirement.
Yeah, well, I think we started out by talking a little bit about income and wealth as being 2 separate areas, and there's different ways of approaching each. I think that the most important thing for people to learn is the income part of it, because that's something you're going to use in retirement also. When you retire and the income from your job is gone, you need to somehow replace that. Yeah. And for most people, unfortunately, they just look at what they have in their retirement account and they keep drawing it down and drawing it down. And just like a snow pile in Minnesota and Denver, when the weather warms up, that pile disappears. It just melts and disappears. For a lot of people, that happens to their retirement accounts. In fact, last week, I think I referenced a stat that showed that even 1 out of the 10 wealthiest people in the country will run out of money in retirement. And that's 1 out of the 10 wealthiest.
And that's a lot of it is because they just draw it down. They don't learn those skills and techniques to either keep building it or just not have to draw it down.
Yeah, well, in there, that's one of the issues. Yeah, there's a couple of other issues. One is they don't know how to protect it. So if you happen to have been in the market in the year 2000 or the year 2008, or even in early 2020, you saw your portfolio maybe go down anywhere from 20 to 60%. How would you like to have worked for maybe 30 or 40 years, retired, relied on all that money you have worked that 30 or 40 years for, and have half of it disappear?
Let me ask you a question, though, Al, because a lot of our listeners are probably not that old and they haven't experienced that. And they always say, and even the ones that did, they say, well, it came back.
Sure.
What is one thing that you lost that you can't get back? And that's what really diminishes those returns. That's why people don't have enough.
Yeah,
Explain
that's
that.
time. And that's time.
Yep.
It's the time. And especially, let's say you retire at 70. The last thing you want to hear is your advisor saying, hey, don't worry about that 50% loss. In another 10 or 15 years, it'll come back. Well, that's not what you want to hear. Or the other thing you'll hear is just learn to live on less. Cut back on things. Maybe get a roommate, sell your house, learn to live on less and get an extra job.
So basically downgrade your lifestyle.
It's downgrading your lifestyle, not what you want to do when you go into retirement. And here's a study that I just looked at the other day by Think Advisor. In 2021, by the way, the S&P 500 was up over 20%. Mm-hmm. Yet, the majority of retirees weren't among those people that got that kind of return. According to Think Advisor, 57% of older adults reported their retirement savings were down by more than 10% in 2021. How could that happen? How could you have been down when the S&P 500 was up 20%? It's number one, because fees are taken out of your portfolio. And number two, you're using the wrong investments and you're not protecting yourself from these downside swings.
Yeah, I was going to hopefully use that as a teaser, but
I'm so sorry.
Stay tuned
Let me
here.
Forget what I just said, folks.
Stay tuned here. We're going to talk more about that four-letter F word, which is fees. But Al, we have a lot of listeners that experience that. And if you haven't experienced that, well, now learn those skills and techniques so that doesn't happen to you. You don't want to be one of those people that say, "Oh, I wish I would have done this," or "I wish I would have done that." Do this now. It takes a little bit of action. So I want to encourage people to get started in these markets. I always say, if you have money in the market, now, these these investing classes, the great thing about it is they're free locally here in Denver and in Bloomington. At least just see what it's all about. That way you can say, now I know, now I can make my own decisions. So I want to give away 20 tickets for that class right here locally. Call 888-682-6466. When you do that, you're going to receive 2 tickets, but also a quick start kit, which will actually help you get started right away. You can also text the word invest to the number 484848. So Al, talk about this now. You brought the F word out, which is fees, and this is a family show. Mm-hmm. So they're fees, which, we'll call it, somewhat okay to say right now. But that is one of the big reasons why you're talking about these accounts from that report did not get the same returns, were actually negative, which is crazy. How do investors, and I know you talk about this in these investing classes that you actually teach here, but how do investors minimize those fees or maybe even eliminate them?
Yeah, there's a couple ways of doing that. If you happen to still be kind of in the younger age range, and you're
like your age,
like my age, right? See, I already forgot now what I was going to talk about. That's what happens when you get to be my age. No, what I was going to say though is that if you're still working and you have a employer sponsored retirement plan, maybe that's the only retirement plan you have. Well, you don't have to just put your money into something and not know about it. Most people really don't even know what they have in their 401ks, Josh, which is crazy, which is sad. But one of the things that we do is we teach what we call it's more managing your 401ks, and it's learning what you have in there. You can trade those things. You can use our core strategy, which, by the way, shows you on a price chart where the potential buying and selling by institutions is going to take place.
So basically, you're not buying every other Friday. You're buying with strategic entry points.
You want to be strategic about entry and exit points. And that's where most people fall apart. It's easy to buy something. It's easy to buy a stock or buy a mutual fund. The hard part for most people is, when do you sell it? Or do you just hold on to for 10, 20, 30 years and hope that there's a profit there at the end? Well, there are profits that you're missing out on if you don't know how to identify a good profit target. That's one of the things our core strategy does. It shows you not only where you want to enter something, but it shows you where you want to exit. And there's 2 exits to every position, Josh. There's the entry and there's 2 exits. One is an exit if you're wrong, and you want that to be a very small loss. And then there's an exit if you're right, and you want that to be a very big profit. That's your goal.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because some people say, well, I don't want to get in the markets because it's risky. Well, I'll tell you what, one thing, if you don't put any risk in anything, you will have zero reward. So you have to get started. But you can minimize that risk in the markets. It's always about taking small risk and higher reward. For example, most people probably drove to wherever they're at, maybe their job or somewhere. They probably drove there. That's a risk. But you put your seatbelt on. That is minimizing that risk. You also look both ways. That is minimizing that risk. Investors can do the same thing in their accounts, whether they have 401ks and IRAs. Small risk, high reward brings longevity in the markets, which means you don't have to be right every single time. And that's what you talk about in these investing classes. You explain that in detail, how to put those different parameters in your short-term accounts for income strategies, but also those long-term accounts for long-term wealth strategies, building and protecting. So these classes, Al, the good thing about these, they're free. The great thing about these is you teach these. Everybody loves you, it seems like. And you really help people see how these markets work, especially in their retirement accounts. So I want to encourage people. If you're listening right now and you have a 401k, even with with a company sponsor through your work, or maybe it's an IRA and you have a broker or an advisor or somebody, taking care of that for you, which basically means they're just holding it for you. I want to encourage you to come to one of these investing classes and at least see what is out there. What can you do with that retirement account? So hopefully you have the opportunity to retire when you want to, not when your broker says to. So call 888-682-6466 for 2 tickets for this free class. Call 888-682-6466 or text the word invest to the number 484848. You're going to get some free stock picks just by getting set up for this class. Al, we got one more segment to go. I want to continue talking about income strategies and also long-term wealth strategies with different stocks and also these other markets. We'll be right back.